Hello and welcome to Vintage Super League. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm joined for the pregame festivities by Rich Shay.
Hello.
How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to watching and playing some really fun Magic tonight.
Should be a good week. I like how the drama has really started to build for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Everybody keeps kind of crunching together, and LSV has clinched, but no one else has clinched, and no one's been eliminated.
I think we're still on the possibility of an 8-way tie, right?
Yes, sir. I actually saw somebody start the 8-way tie hashtag on Twitter. That's awesome. If you look back, there's a couple posts about this now, and then there's some, upholstery, furniture restoration 8-way tie means something there, I guess. That's, the first post on that hashtag.
I haven't done the math to see if this could actually perpetuate itself forever, but it's possible.
Well, it depends what our playoff is, I guess.
Until the end of time.
So the other thing that's going on, I definitely want to take a few minutes while we've got time to talk about this weekend. You're going to be in Philadelphia. I'm going to be in Philadelphia. This weekend is Eternal Weekend. It is both the Legacy Champs and the Vintage Champs. And I know that's something you look forward to every year.
I am very much looking forward to this, not just because of the competition, but because this is a huge event for the entire community that brings everyone together. There aren't Vintage Pro Tours yet. There aren't Vintage Grand Prix currently, but instead we have the Vintage Championship. And I'm especially excited because Nick Koss, who ran it last year, did such a terrific job with it that I'm really looking forward to seeing. It's a time when vintage players, people that fly in internationally and come in from the other coast and get together for some really high-quality vintage. And I'm really looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, I know. I'll be doing commentary both for Legacy and for Vintage. On the Vintage Day, Chris Pakula will be one of the guys joining me in the booth. I know you're going, Steve's going. I think Efro is flying out, too,
Awesome.
if I'm not mistaken.
That's great.
I know. And Luis, I know, was very tempted. I saw him in Los Angeles last weekend, and if it wasn't, a month where he was already going to 3 other events, he definitely definitely felt like it was a thing he would have made a trip for.
It's worth it. Like I said, last year I was so impressed. One of the things that I've always been so impressed by are the people in this community, and big tournaments from the days of Waterbury up through today bring everyone together. And I've always said that one of my favorite things about Vintage as a format is that afterwards, no matter how the tournament ends up, people go together, get dinner after, enjoy each other's company, and it's a chance to experience that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's I certainly enjoy it.
Absolutely. And I'm especially excited because it's been on a few years since we've seen Vintage affected quite as much as it has been by cons. And there are a lot of potential cards that we could see. So I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of clever contraptions people are assembling. Now,
did you it's funny. I know that Steve actually mentioned last week on camera that he didn't really want to show off any new tech this week because he was worried about the Vintage Champs this weekend. And so, his deck doesn't have any Cons of Tarkir cards in it. Other people have commented that maybe it's he didn't do as good a job of metagaming this week as maybe he had in the 2 previous sets. Is that something you were worried about or thinking about?
Not at all. I have no desire other than to play the best deck I can.
Okay.
And I'm not holding anything back. I picked what I think was going to be the best deck for this.
Yeah, I think your list looks quite good to me. I mean, it's essentially Delver Cruise, yeah?
It is. It's not unlike Bob Wong's deck from Legacy, but in Vintage.
And yeah, I don't know. You may have had slightly different incentives, too, trying to make sure you didn't finish last versus Steve, who probably only needed 1 win to make the playoffs and could, in theory, make the playoffs even with an 0-3.
Well, I certainly wouldn't like to end up in last place, but I also didn't want to abandon all hope of trying to make the playoffs, so I'm giving that my best shot.
Yeah, if you 3-0, I mean, you're a third of the way there. 5-4 is probably going to wind up in a tiebreaker match, I would think.
I think it's not guaranteed, but it's likely.
Yeah, it is not guaranteed. I did that math, but it is likely. I agree with both of those. Now, if we have the 8-way tie scenario, then you're in playoff matches even at 4-5.
That's true. If there's an 8-way tie, I'm guaranteed to be in the playoffs.
Exactly. But you haven't clinched to not last. Same for me. I'm actually tied for last right now. But yeah, even Steve at 5-2 has not clinched playoffs. That was where I was looking to see, can we get 4 people to 6-3 or better? And we can. And we can do it even without having Steve be one of them.
We can, and we'll have to see how the matches end up tonight. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how these play out.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So the first matchup is Chris Bakula versus Bob Maher. And I don't know if you guys saw, Chris had, the tweet of the month for me, maybe the tweet of the year, when he pointed out that his match has the maximum possible number of Dark Confidants involved at 9.
That is, in fact, the maximum number you're allowed to have in a 2-player game. And I think it's worth noting that I know I've said before that there are some powerful wizards involved in this, but there are literally wizards involved in this game. I'm sure that many of you remember that once upon a time, Wizards of the Coast had the Magic Invitational, where people were invited to play, and the grand prize of this tournament was actually getting to design your own Magic card. So we've seen, for example, Darwin Castle creating Avalanche Riders, and we've seen both Bob and Chris creating their own wizards, Meddling Mage and Dark Confidant. And what I'm really excited about in this match is that they're actually both playing their own avatars in this game.
I heard you campaigning for Chris to name his deck Meddling Mage and 59 other cards.
Exactly. Last week when I saw that he was playing Meddling Mage, it completely made my day. And so his deck is it's part of a longer tradition and vintage of blue-white base decks that are generally disruptive. At a tournament a few months ago, Craig Berry, Brian Koval, and I worked on a deck called Dance Magic Dance because it featured Spirit of the Labyrinth so prominently. And the basic idea behind the deck is that you can halt a lot of what an opponent's trying to do with that spirit. And the synergy between Spirit of the Labyrinth and Vidilian Click is actually pretty powerful. When you add in Meddling Mage himself to shut off options that your opponent has, the ability to look at your opponent's hand becomes all. So.
Sure. So you like Chris's matchup there against Bob?
That's actually tough. I think when I was playing the blue-white version of this deck, it was pretty good against Grixis control. But on the other hand, I actually don't know. I think this is going to be a really interesting match. They have similar draw engines. They have a lot of the same things that they're trying to do. I think that Chris's deck has more controlling elements. Bob's deck is more explosive. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they match up against each other.
Makes sense. Now, tell me about your matchup with LSV.
Well, LSV is an extremely good player, and I'm looking forward to playing against him. I've playtested the matchup. It was favorable in my testing, but LSV is LSV.
You don't have testing opponents that are Hall of Fame quality players?
Well, I was playing against Stu Summers. He's an extremely good player. I don't remember if he's in the Hall of Fame or not. You'll have to look that up for me. But I'm looking forward to the match very much, and I think that this sort of match between Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time is something we'll be seeing not a small amount of this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I actually I was talking to Luis a little bit at the Grand Prix last weekend, and I think he may actually be coming around to Treasure Cruise being the better vintage card than Dig Through Time. That one mana really does actually make a big difference. In
my experience, it does. Being able to spend one less mana is... At first, I thought that Dig Through Time was going to be better in a mana drain deck because you can leave the 2 blue open. But the more I play with the card, the more I just like being able to cast it now, because sometimes you need to make decisions based on having the cards in your hand sooner rather than later. So being able to get the card now, being able to get the information now, and especially if you have sorcery speed threats like Young Pyromancer, then you really want to be able to access those as quickly as you can.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. We've got Martell versus Utter Leighton in the third round as well, which is basically the same matchup.
That's true. So we'll get multiple instances. We'll sample multiple times from this, and
So you think Cruz Delver lines up a little better?
Well, I think so. I don't know how well Rich Shay and LSV line up though, so I'm gonna be, you know, I.
All right, fair.